9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Discussing everything about the afterlife, the spirit world. Calling to you all the way from Ireland. It's Sandie Byrne.
Hey, everybody, and welcome to Tipperary for another hour. How is everybody? We've got a few people in the room. Can you let me know if you can hear me okay? I tell you, I have to ask specifically tonight because I can't hear a thing. Thank you, Lottie. I can't hear a thing. I've got another ear infection. So if I'm talking too loud or if I'm talking too low, you're going to have to tell me, because really and truly, I honestly can't hear very much. So welcome back for another week, and thanks for joining me. I don't have anything particular prepared tonight, okay? Because I know we had a couple of guests on and we had a couple of different things going on over the last few weeks. And I do have, guys, a really, really special guest coming on next week. So if you can, I know I'm live as well on TikTok. So if you're on TikTok and you want to join us next week, guys, please come on at this time and join me on Podbean, because I am going to have the best dream interpreter on with me. His name is Paul Gill. He's also a hypnotherapist, okay? So he can talk to us about that also. But I'm super interested to hear about the dream interpretation. I have spoken to Paul before and I have heard him on the radio before. He's amazing. So if you have any particular dreams that have been worrying you over the last while, please, you can send them in to me during the week, or, we'll be bringing a few people on to come on live and talk to Paul about their dreams, or if they have other issues that they feel that Paul could help with regards to the hypnotherapy, okay? I don't think he's going to be hypnotizing anybody live, but he will be able to tell you if hypnotherapy can help you with specific problems. So please do come and join us next week. And Tia's telling me on TikTok that she's been to see Paul. He is absolutely amazing. So do come on live on Podbean next week, and we'll pick Paul's brains until he has none left. Okay. So that's next week, the 24th of November. Okay. So for now, let's stick with the 17th, which is where we are today. One thing I did want to start off chatting about, and I think we may have touched on it on a previous week, was connecting with animals. Okay. But for those of you who are on Podbean, if you have any questions that you want to ask about mediumship or the spirit world, please send me a request to come on. You're more than welcome to come on live and join in and just have a chat. Because I did start this podcast to answer any questions. I know that it's not always possible for people to ask the questions that they want to ask, and I wanted to set aside this hour every week for specific questions. Not necessarily, asking your loved ones in spirit, but anything about the process, anything about developing your own spirituality or stuff like that, okay? So if there's anything that you want to ask, I put lip balm on my lips and now I feel like I'm chewing it. I put too much on. So yeah, please, you can send, if you're on the Podbean app, there should be on your screen somewhere request to come live or request to join Sandie Live, something like that. Hey Megan, welcome. Thanks for joining us here on TikTok. Not on TikTok, on Podbean. I'm looking at TikTok when I'm talking to you. From New Zealand. Okay, so I did want to, because I actually put up a TikTok. If anybody does follow me on TikTok, I put up a TikTok during the week about a connection that I made with a little doggy in the spirit world. And this was a really funny dog. Okay, obviously I couldn't fit it all into like a 60-second TikTok. But I put down, that the dog was saying that his owner had slept with him the night before he passed, because Mary's saying she loves my TikToks. I'm just not one of those creative people. I find it very hard to think of something to put on TikTok. So they're getting fewer and far between. And it's been really busy lately too. But that poor little doggy had come through, and he'd mentioned that his owner had slept on the floor with him on his last night. So as it happened, his owner had brought him home from the vet for his last night. Okay. And yes, she did sleep on the floor with him because she wanted to be with him on his last night, and he was too sick to even get up on the couch or anything like that. So so that was happening, but then he was talking about how she had found all of his toys and bones and stuff that he buried in the backyard. So when they were digging up the garden, so after the poor doggy died, they made a decision they weren't going to get another dog straight away, and they moved. So right outside the back patio door had been this doggy's house, a wooden house that he had, and he was given out because they'd moved it. And he said to me, not only did they move my house, he really had like an attitude, not only did they move my house, but they dug up all my toys, you know. So the story was that after he passed, they got rid of the doghouse, and they dug up to put down a new patio in that area. So when they were digging the foundations for the patio, they found a lot of stuff that the dog had buried while he was alive. Okay. And there was another part to it as well, because one of the dog's favorite toys, which from memory, I think it was like a red bone, you know, like those rubber bones you can buy for dogs and they squeak when you bite them. And so the bone, you know, the little toys for dogs that squeak when they bite them. And he'd lost this toy, you know, in the few days before he passed. And he hadn't been able to find it, and even the owner had found it. But it was after he'd passed that she'd pulled out she had like a big corner settee thing, and she pulled it out to Hoover, and that's when she found it. And he told me that she started crying when she found the toy, you know, because that was his favorite. So it was very sad. She was crying, I was crying, the poor little doggy was upset. But, you know, he kept telling her that he loved her and that he misses her and all these kinds of things. And, you know, he talked about other stuff as well, because she actually did used to have his mother. Oh, Mary saying she lost her dog a year ago, missed him so much. And, you know, it's coming up to a year since I lost my dog too. So I do feel it, you know, when anybody's talking about losing an animal. And I have lots of cats as well in the spirit world. Historically, we were more cat people than dog people, because I used to always be out at work during the day. But once I started working from home, that's when I got dogs. So, yeah, so I miss my baby so much. But yeah, it is. So somebody's asking me, do I do mediumship specifically for animals? Okay. And no is probably the answer for that. I mean, if you want to have a reading to come and speak to an animal, that's fine. You don't even need to tell me that before you come. You just come for mediumship. Or I say book for mediumship. I don't have anybody to the house anymore. It's all online. But you just book for mediumship, and who comes through comes through. So it might be a relative, it might be an animal, it might be a friend. You know, there's lots of different, you know, I suppose beings, human beings, animal beings, whatever, that can come through. And animals are a big one, guys. It's very, very common for either an animal to come through or for somebody in spirit to acknowledge an animal that they're in spirit with. You know, sometimes an animal, maybe a favorite animal that they had when they were a child, or even, it's funny because I'm teaching a mediumship class at the moment, and I will actually be looking next week, just to give you a heads up. Next week, I'll be looking for volunteers for these people to read. But I've been teaching this mediumship class, and I had one of them read for me. And she brought through a relative of mine who passed 4 years ago. And he brought with him my dog that had died a year ago. Okay. And it was lovely for me to get that closure, because, well, one, I never get a reading, so I never get an opportunity to get closure. But two, because I'd been asking, well, two of my uncles in particular that are in spirit. And for those of you who know me, my uncles were all like brothers to me. They were all like, it's like having five big brothers instead of five uncles, you know. So I was asking two of my uncles in particular to look after my little dog. Well, I call him my little dog. He was a German Shepherd. He was quite big. To look after my dog for me in the spirit world. So for him to come through and acknowledge my dog with him, it was just amazing. Okay, I loved it. So I know how important it is, guys, to get that message from your little animals. And hey, look, the way I make no apologies, because I spend more time with my dogs than anybody else, even my husband, because I'm here all day, every day. And I know you can't see it on Podbean, but just in front of my desk here, there's a dog bed, and that's where my dog, she lies out every day. I still have one German Shepherd left. Kelly said she lost her baby a year ago, got her cremated, and every day it breaks my heart. I have her in my sitting room beside me. Oh, and you can get some jewelry. So, guys, whether you have someone cremated, so whether it doesn't matter if it's a human being or an animal, you can get some piece of jewelry. Or even there's a girl down in Waterford that does stained glass, and you can have a piece made with some of the ashes from either your dog or your loved one in there. And it's a great way. You have her ashes in a chain. Perfect. Absolutely perfect. Okay. So let me see who on TikTok. Nobody here is telling me. I had no idea that you could connect to pets. It makes me so happy. Oh, Courtney. Yeah, we spend more time. I'm in a haunted house. What's the crack? Is the ghost nice or what? Oh, Emer. So yeah, put do something with the ashes. I found it great. My mother lost she's lost four of her siblings, God bless her, and I had something meant for her for Christmas there. Was it last year or the year before? And so she can have all their ashes. They're in separate little almost like charms, and I have them on a brooch pin for her. So she wears it on the inside of her jacket or whatever she's wearing, but she can have them with her, at all times. So that's really, really nice. Okay. So about connecting with animals. So somebody was asking me then on TikTok, how do you connect with animals? Is it any different? All this kind of stuff. And the answer to that is no, it's the very same as connecting with a person. So when I'm connecting with somebody in spirit, okay, it doesn't matter if, they come from Ireland or the UK and they spoke English, or if they came from Denmark, or if they came from the Philippines or Greece or wherever, there's no language in spirit. So there's never that barrier that I can't understand what someone is saying, because it's all about feeling when you're connecting with spirit. Okay, it's all about feeling, and what they show you, they'll put little pictures in your head or whatever. Okay, and it's the same when you're connecting with animals, because there's no language barrier. And guys, let's face it, our animals talk to us, but there's just a language barrier there. We don't understand their language, but they definitely try and communicate with us. My cat talks to me all day while I'm walking around the house, and she gives out to the dog. So I'm not sure if the dog understands her, but because I don't understand my dog. But it's just a language barrier. Okay, so animals are fierce perceptive. They know what's going on. And I had a cat that passed away a few years ago, and I had this cat for 13 years, and she was a little doll, but sure, things started to give up on her. She was an amputee from the time she was a year old, so she was a tripod. She was missing one of her front legs, and after that, she actually did suffer. I know people will probably say, oh God, Sandie. She suffered with a little bit of depression, okay? Because she had lost her sister just before she lost her leg. And I think it was because she'd lost her sister. She was out in the field with the horse, and I think trying to cuddle up to the horse when she was cold. And the horse obviously kicked her. I'd say by accident, because he was very gentle. But the horse obviously kicked her, and her shoulder bone was absolutely shattered. So she got that removed. The between the loss of her sister, the accident with the horse, the having the leg removed, and trying to cope with the operation, she started to suffer with a bit of depression. Okay, even though she lasted till 13. So we used to have this thing that you plug in. I'm sure some people have heard of it. Okay, so you plug this in, and it helps with their depression, their hormones or whatever. But as she got older, she started to get a thyroid problem. She lost her hearing. Things were going bad for her. And I used to do healing on her. And you could see the difference in her. She would actually lie on her back on my lap, right? And she loved, the meditation part, the bringing in the spirit. But the minute she sensed the spirit working on her, you could see her pupils getting so big, they almost actually took over her eyes. Okay. And then she'd start hissing, and she'd be looking all around me at all the spirits around, and she'd start hissing, and then she'd take off. Okay. So animals are very, very perceptive, and you can always fell away. That's the one that it's called. Thank you, Carrie. That's exactly what we used to have for her. And you know, animals are very, very perceptive to the spirit world. So even sometimes, I do recall a while back, I had this gentleman come through for someone, and he was given out to his relative here because he was saying, I actually can't spend a lot of time with you because the dog goes mad every time I'm there. And she said to him, she said, I was wondering what was up with the dog. I thought the dog was going mad. So the dog sensed that he was there in spirit, okay? And the dog was barking and growling at him. So it was just upsetting the dog. So he wasn't able to come and visit her. So she had to make a point to have some time every week where, the dog was maybe locked in the other room for a while or whatever, so that her loved one could come and spend time with her, okay, without actually upsetting the dog. So don't we really run our lives around animals? Okay, so animals come to us. And has anybody heard the term totem? Have you ever heard of the term totem? I think we mediums and psychics, we bandy these things around quite a bit. So a totem is an animal spirit guide, guys, okay? And totems come to us at the times in our lives where we need the most moral support. Okay, so sometimes you might find that you're going through a stressful time, and you might be standing waiting for the kettle to boil, or you might be washing something in the sink or whatever, and you might feel a cat or a dog or something rub up against your leg, okay? And it might remind you of a pet maybe that you had at one point, or you might know exactly which pet it is. Now I'm talking about pets that aren't living, okay? That you'll feel this animal walking around you, but you can't see anything. There's nothing there. Okay, so they will come and they will make themselves known at the times in their lives when you need them, you need that moral support. Okay, so for example, and I've made no secret of it, I've talked openly and freely about the miscarriages that I had in the past. And we had a different cat actually at one point, and I remember coming out of hospital, and I'd been in hospital for 3 weeks, and it was kind of hit and miss pregnancy, and I hadn't miscarried, so they said I could go home and bed rest. So I was at home, and obviously I'm bed rest, so I was in my bed, and I had this cat, and oh my god, she was just a pet. And so she was called Chicken Legs. Okay, it's a long story about the name, but anyway, that was actually the cat's name, was Chicken Legs. And I remember the vet's face when I told him that one. And she used to stay in bed with me all day, every day. And she used to literally put her paws around my neck and cuddle me and, look after me. And I obviously did end up having a miscarriage, and I was very sick after the operation when I came out of hospital, and the cat never left my side. So they're really perceptive to how you're feeling, and if they're like that in life, why would they not be like that in death? Now, I see somebody's telling me that they were told that their power animal is a dragon. Okay. So I don't know. It's not my forte to talk about your power animals and all that kind of stuff. Oh, thank you, Carrie. It's okay. It's a while ago now. It's not my forte to talk about and tell people who their power animals and stuff like that is. But I would imagine that it would have to be an animal that was actually a realistic animal, which I don't believe dragons were. Now I'm open to contradiction on that, but I think dragons are something that were made up for stories and fairy tales and stuff. So perhaps your power animal was some kind of dinosaur or something. So I would imagine, yeah, that's what I thought Ross is saying. that it would have to be. So I mean, it would be a lovely thought that we have a dragon, breathing fire at all our enemies and stuff like that. But yeah, I would probably say maybe it was some kind of a dinosaur or something like that. Not to say that you're an old dinosaur, Ross, but I'm just putting it out there. so yeah, so does anybody have any questions, guys, about connecting with animals? Please send me a request to join me live, because it's much more interesting if people aren't listening to just me. Okay, I can invite you in, Ross. Do you think animals can see spirits? I had a King Charles that would stare on a face for ages just after my mum. Oh, hey Ross, you're very loud. Can you hear me?
Yes, can you
You're
hear
just-
me?
I sure can.
Okay.
Okay.
That I'm on my husband's account. I'm in Podbean jail.
Why? What did you do? I didn't even know there was such a thing as Podbean jail.
I don't know. I made someone mad and I got banned, and
Oh,
so
good.
I'm almost
Yeah.
out of
Okay.
Podbean. It's okay though. Anyway, it's I'm normally in here under the only crazy lady. Um, I know the
Oh,
animals
yeah.
see spirits and stuff. I swear, my brother, part of his soul is in my dog.
Okay. Well, I assume your brother was passed away before your dog was born. Then.
And it's always been like that.
Okay. I mean, I don't. I honestly believe, that we could either have been an animal in a past life, or we could come back as an animal. Absolutely. I have absolutely no qualms about that. How long before your dog was born was your brother in spirit?
Oh God, well over 10 years.
Okay, okay. Because I was actually talking to somebody about this, and I will come back to your question. Who asked that question? Rach. I'll come back to your question in a minute. Um, I was talking to somebody about this the other day, and I know that there's always exceptions to every rule. And if you look on YouTube, there's some very interesting videos about children who can tell us about their past life. You know, now, all of these children, as it happens, well, the majority of them, they have amazing past lives. As in, one of them was, oh, what's her name? The girl from the war that was locked in the office. Oh, Anne Frank. Sorry, I couldn't just think of the name there for a second. So one of these girls was Anne Frank, and one of these little boys was a fighter pilot in the Second World War, and they come back and they tell their stories. Now, amazing stories, and I don't doubt it for a minute. But my own belief would be that someone would nearly always be in spirit for quite some time before they're reincarnated. Okay. But, and I'd say to you, I'm not doubting your story about your brother, because you know your brother's mannerisms and you know your dog. Has anybody ever heard people talking about the soul splitting in spirit? That part of our soul can come back, but part of it can stay there. Have you
Yes.
ever heard that? Yeah, I have.
Yes.
I haven't looked much into it now. I'll be honest with you.
The
Um,
the way it was explained to me
sure.
when I had that question, uh, is that our soul is like it's a massive, and
Yeah.
it can like each time like
You
it
come back.
shatters. Sometimes it may only shatter in two different parts.
Yes.
That's like when you met someone and just like you knew everything about them, like your soul sister or your soul brother.
Yeah.
There are some that believe that that could be another part of your soul, that that's why you guys are gravitated
Okay.
toward
I mean,
each
I,
other.
I do 100% believe in soul groups. I do. Not necessarily that we would come back here and be the same. Like, I might not be my mother's daughter in the next life. I could be her mother, I could be her sister, but nonetheless, we're connected. Is that what you're talking about? The connection that we
Yeah,
have with each other? Yeah, yeah.
yeah,
And go on,
and
sorry.
it, yeah, and I just
Yeah,
because
so
yeah,
I think it's possible.
It's
To
feasible.
maybe send part of yourself back and maybe keep part of yourself in the spirit world. I don't know. I'm trying not to think too much about it because I'm thinking, God, after I've been through this lifetime, which isn't an easy life, and especially with the way things are at the moment, I'm thinking, do I really want to come back? But obviously, that's definitely something that we're going to have to think about. So who else is telling me here? Helen. Helen, do you want to come on and tell us what you heard about soul splitting? Because I have heard a couple of different things, and I think it's an interesting topic. It's not something, as I say, that I've looked into a lot, but to get a few different viewpoints would definitely be great, to see the different way that people have perceived it. I want to stay with you. What's your first name? I know you're not Ross.
Oh, it's Stephanie, crazy lady.
Stephanie.
That's what everyone
And
calls me,
I've seen
crazy
you on
lady.
here before, but
Yeah, I do
first
like the
names,
show.
they go in one ear and out the other, I'm afraid. So apologies for that. So you can help me answer some
Stephanie.
questions. Yes, Stephanie, you can help me answer some questions. So
Okay.
Rach is asking, do you think animals can see spirits? And she had a King Charles that would stare at space for ages just after my mum died.
Yep,
I believe
they
it.
can.
Yeah, I believe it too, I have to say. And you know, sorry, Stephanie, I know I'm talking over you, but we, in my home house where I grew up, say my mother's house, my granddad died in that house. And my niece always used to talk about the man in the corner where we had the head of his bed, where he was when he died. And my niece used to spend hours when she was a baby and toddler playing in that corner and laughing with the man, as she used to call him. But also any animal that we had, any cat or dog or whatever that we ever had, they used to go over to sleep in that particular corner, and my granddad was a great man for animals. So I firmly believe that they can perceive it 100%. Okay. So we've also got Emily joining us live. And guys, any of you that want to come on and join us live to join in the chat, you're more than welcome. Hey, Emily, thanks for joining. I'm just going to do one more question before I come to you, if that's okay. So Kelly is telling us that her dad had a cat for 6 years and she was missing for months. He went into hospital, and when he came out, the cat returned home and never left his side. A few months later, my dad passed, the cat disappeared and never returned. Wow, I love that story. It's almost like the spirit of the cat came back. Emily, if you have something on in the background, can you turn it down or mute yourself just for a minute? Sorry, I'm just getting a bit of feedback. I absolutely love that story, Kelly. Thanks so much for sharing it. And, we all hear, has anybody ever heard the story of there's a hospital in the UK, and on the cancer ward in the hospital, they have a cat that predicts death. Okay, I know this sounds, I can't remember exactly where it was, but I remember reading an article about it. And basically, this cat just showed up on the ward one day, and the cat came in a window and went to a lady's bed and wouldn't leave this lady's bed, spat and scratched the whole lot. So they left the cat there. The lady said she was fine to have the cat there, and the lady passed away the following day. And then the cat left. And the cat showed up again a few days later, went to a particular bed. It was the same story, and that person passed away that night. So they have this cat that still comes to the hospital, and whenever anybody is near death, the cat comes and sits on their bed. So whenever the cat returns to the hospital, the nurses watch him, and whomever's bed this animal goes to, they ring the family and ask them to come in because they know that this person is going to pass within the next 24 hours. Is that amazing or what? I'm going to have to see if I can find the article. I'm going to be Googling half the night now because I just thought of that because ages ago when I read it. But this cat actually predicted death. Now, that said, although the smell will be all over the ward, there is a smell of cancer. And I don't know if anybody ever visited a cancer ward, but it's actually possible to smell cancer. And, this is the way they train dogs to sense some kind of illness. They have dogs that can detect cancer. They have dogs that can detect epileptic fits. They have some dogs that even can detect when somebody's going to have like a heart attack and stuff. So there is a smell of some diseases, and some of them that only animals can perceive. Okay. So Emily, sorry, you came on there and I ignored you. Where are you from? Are you still with us, Emily? Okay. Egyptians believe that cats were guardians of the dead. Well, it's very true, you know. I think somebody has to be, don't they? I think that is totally mind blowing, isn't it, Michelle? You know, I mean, it must be petrifying for somebody to see the cat come. I can't remember from the article if the patients were actually aware of this, but the nurses were definitely aware of it. Okay, some people can see death. Yeah, I'm going to tell you something now, and you know, you're going to say that I'm absolutely mad, right? But this is true because I tend not to make up stories because I see enough mad things in my life. But my mother was in hospital in Limerick a couple of years ago. Okay. And obviously, I went down to visit her. And are you from Argentina, Emily? Okay. So you're probably not understanding a lot of what I'm saying. I'm getting a lot of feedback, though. So I'm going to mute you. Okay. Because I can hear television or radio or something in the background. So anyway, I went down to see my mother in the hospital. And if anybody, I know some people are abroad, but anybody that's Irish, if you've ever been to Limerick Hospital, it's like a TARDIS, okay? And it's so hard to find your way anywhere. And there was a lot of work going on at the time. But I'd asked directions and I kept getting sent back around in circles. And as I was walking down the corridor, there was people walking towards me because there was like a smoker's yard in this part of the hospital. And next thing I looked up and there was this one person and all I could see was like a skeleton. I couldn't actually see this person's face. It was like I could just see them as a skeleton and they were walking very, very bent over. And I often wondered if that person was close to death or if something was happening. I don't know why I saw it. And now I can tell you they weren't wearing a mask. It wasn't Halloween time or anything like that. Okay. But, you know, I just saw it like that. So I don't, because I didn't know the person, I actually got such a fright. I didn't want to go up and ask them. But, like, are you very close to death? I mean, how would you word that anyway? And such a big hospital, if it was a small community hospital, I'd probably been able to find out who it was. But unfortunately, not in that occasion. And Kelly's saying that there was also a little Yorkshire Terrier called Max. He passed 7 weeks after her dad passing. Kelly, you all gone all at the one time. Some deaths do smell different. Yeah, you know, I have cousins that are nurses and they talk about it a lot. Oh, listen to this. Maggie is saying that her dog knew that she had a blood clot before she knew herself, and he saved my life. Animals are so in tune. That is just amazing. I mean, to some extent, I can understand maybe sensing the epileptic fit or something, but a blood clot, wow, because I'm sure a blood clot just smells like your blood. So, how did he know? God, I'd love to know that. Did you say it to your doctor? Did your doctor have any explanation as to how the animal, you know, sensed the clot? Because that's amazing. They keep they keep changing wards now. Oh, that's about the cat, is it? Um, yeah. Okay. So Emily, can you hear us? I don't want to have you on and not being able to talk. Can you hear me, Emily?
Yes, I can, ma'am.
Oh, you can. Hello. Did you want to ask a specific question or you just wanted to join in the chat?
I just wanted to join the chat and nothing. I don't have any specific question, actually.
No problem at all. You're more than welcome. So Maggie's just given us more on that story about the dog sensing the blood clot, and she said she couldn't believe it. The dog even sensed what leg and the location of the blood clot. Guys, that's just amazing. I'm going to look into that more and see if that's actually a thing. Because, you know, we've all heard of, you know, guide dogs and emotional support dogs and epilepsy dogs and all those kinds of things. But that is absolutely amazing. And Stephanie, you're on, Stephanie. Please feel free to talk. She's saying that her
Oh,
dog.
darn, I forgot I was listening.
You're all right. It's a good thing you weren't giving out about me.
Right? I was just sitting here, just, lost in thought, because I mean, I've had pets that were like, they were my pets, but I've had two animals that I know they were my familiars. They were, guides, for lack of a better word, you know.
Were they more like
to-
emotional support kind of dogs?
No, they were well, one familiar was a guardian in
Oh, okay.
in my religion, you know. He just, like, I don't know, he just hung out, and he only like hung around my altar, and only like he would only live up on me when I had to do work. Other than that,
Okay.
you know, he like would leave my house and like do his own cat thing.
Yes, of course.
And then I had one animal that kept bringing me spirits.
Cool. So you felt like this was almost like a medium pet, if you like.
Yeah, it was
Yeah.
like, you know, one of those
And
things. It's
why
hard to
not?
explain.
And
But
because, I do believe too that because the dogs can perceive, spirit easier, it's easier for spirit, to maybe use the animal as the way of coming through,
yeah, and they
you
can
know?
see orbs too, you know.
Oh,
Um,
100%.
you know, the balls of energy and stuff.
Sure.
Because sometimes, like, my dog will be looking at something, and I'll be like, "What are you looking at, dude?" And sometimes it's like, "Oh, okay, that's what you're looking at." And yeah, they sense stuff. I always
Yes,
say, trust your animals.
they do.
They know a lot more than we do.
Oh, definitely. You should I should have my dog doing the show. She's probably much more much more talkative than me today anyway, maybe because as I say, I haven't been well, so the energy isn't that high today. And Emily, you're live. Please feel free to talk, pet. Emily's telling us that she had to have a procedure done to see if she had breast cancer, and the cat slept next to her the whole night. Okay. And if it was the night before, was it the night before the cat slept with you, Emily, or the night following the procedure?
No, actually, it was just the very same night that I came back from the procedure, because
Okay.
he usually doesn't give a 2 cents about me. Even when I pick him up, and he usually looks behind my back and hisses, and
Yes.
he's always stirring something behind my back. I mean, I turn around and there's nothing there, so I don't worry. But he scares me sometimes,
Oh,
and
yes. They can do.
and that night, I mean, when I feel bad, or I mean, I had surgery like 2 months ago, and when there's something regarding my health,
Uh-huh.
he's always there, like they're sleeping with me, or just going around and want me to pet him.
Oh.
But other than that, he's just like ignores me completely, like I don't exist.
He's a living totem. He just wants to be
Basically.
there to give you the support, 100%. And I love that. I just want to ask you a question, Stephanie, because it just dawned on me when you wrote it here. Because I'm not necessarily familiar with the term familials. Can you explain what you mean by that? So people are aware?
Um, familiars is like, I don't know, they're like animals that they're connected to you.
Oh, okay, okay.
You know,
So in the way that
they're a connection.
so in the way
Whether
that
it be to a spirit world, you know, some are like, oh, the saying, every witch has a cat.
okay, but they would be living animals, not necessarily spirit animals.
Um, Actually, I've used some of my, like, when I found like my dog's baby teeth,
Sure.
I throw it on my altar, and I've used those teeth in, you know, in protection bags and stuff. So yeah, you
Okay.
know, you know,
Cool. Okay, so there's just some kind of connection, but
yeah,
not necessarily spirit. Fair enough. Okay. Maggie, I definitely believe in this. We're always saying the same dog was definitely here before in human form in a past life. And, I think, Stephanie would definitely agree with you on that, Maggie. But she's saying that she feels that some of her brother's energy is there because she recognizes some of the traits of the dog, which is amazing.
yeah,
What's the most,
attitude,
sorry?
the attitude. And there's just sometimes like, I'll look at my dog and I can hear my brother, and it's like, and it's the same look, it's just like,
Almost like almost like the dog is talking to you, but you know what he's
yeah.
saying. Yeah.
And it's his
Eileen
whole
is asking,
attitude.
attitude. What's the most unusual animal that has come through for me? Okay, Eileen. Well, to be fair, it's only really been cats and dogs so far, because kind of that's the most people that I would read for here in Ireland would have just cats and dogs, and we tend. So they're the kind of people that tend to come through mostly for me. I haven't had anybody come through or come yet looking to speak to a horse or anything like that. Although I imagine that will happen at some point in the future. I often try when I'm walking, not that I walk that much on our road because it's actually quite dangerous, but sometimes I would go for a short walk on the road, and there's some animals, horses in the fields around, and I'd be just kind of trying to connect with them in a life form first, because how you live your life, how I live my life, reflects in my mediumship. So therefore, I feel that because I've always been surrounded just by cats and dogs, that's probably why I'm only so far getting cats and dogs. But I do try to be more friendly with other animals. They're not necessarily always friendly back, but I do try it. Horses are actually very curious creatures. So if you put yourself in a field with a horse but turn your back on it and ignore it, they're more likely to come to you. Okay, I wouldn't suggest getting into the field with strange horses though. But yeah, I've done it, and the horses, you might wait a minute or two, but they get more curious than anything. They're as nosy. And the same with the cows. We have cows all around us here where I live, out in the middle of the countryside. And the cows are always so nosy. They'll
Right.
always come to you at the gate. Yeah, they will. So Rach is saying, I have my dog on video watching orbs all around the room. She has since passed and I love to watch it. Oh, that's so cute. So the dog was very aware that spirit was around, that's amazing. I must actually, I've been meaning to check, because I have the video from, it must be a couple of years ago now. I'll put it up on my Facebook again, or maybe I put it up on my TikTok, I think, about where there was orbs in my hallway. And back at that time, I used to see people at the house. So there was people in and out all day and spirit all around the place. But it was around Christmas time, or coming up to Christmas time, and the amount of orbs in the hallway was just unnatural, and you can see them. And I had to cut the bit out because my son came down the stairs in the middle of the night in just his boxers to get a drink. So I cut that bit out. But it was like, it was like the orbs were so curious, the spirit was so curious. They followed him into the kitchen to get his drink, and followed him back out of the kitchen, and followed him up the stairs. And you could see 3 or 4 of them in a line following him back up the stairs. They're like little, it's almost like you have a little dog or a cat following you around the house. Like, they're so curious as to what's going on. And I love that. Now, I didn't do it because I don't have software that's good enough. I'm sure if you're a photographer or anything like that, you'd have software that's good enough. But sometimes I'm told that if you have a good picture of an orb, that you can actually enlarge it and sometimes see a face within it. Okay. Now, I did it here a few years back, before we were given out to about using those lanterns that you light and let off into the sky. So I did, write all the names of the local people and people from my Facebook page who had lost anybody to suicide. So I wrote all the names on there, and we let them off up into the sky. And the last one that was going up, I took a picture of it as it was going up into the sky. And there's very, very clearly the face of a young man on the side of the lantern as it goes up into the sky. And I must go back on it, because I'm pretty sure that someone commented at the time and said that she knew who it was, and that she'd sent in his name to be included when I was letting those lanterns off. So you can actually see, sometimes when you enlarge stuff, you can see the face on it. And a lot of people have done that with orbs. So if you've a clear picture and some good software to enlarge it without losing the quality of the picture, then you should be able to see something within it. Do you think your loved ones sometimes come back as your pets, Eileen? Just ask Stephanie, because she's definitely got that. So her
Yes.
brother's spirit is part of her dog. I definitely feel that there is reincarnation, and I know that we can come back as animals. So Stephanie's just after adding the last piece to that puzzle, that her brother has been reunited with her through her dog. So I guess the answer to that is yes. You know, I'm not surprised anymore with what can happen in this world, to be fair.
And
So it's
it's
true,
weird
isn't
is
it?
because yeah, because Jake has come into my life like I would at my most hardest, you know, and if Anthony had lived, there were like all the times when Anthony would have been
Sure.
here,
Hmm.
and my dog would have acted just like I would perceive my brother would have acted in that same stressful, or whatever moment, you know.
Yeah,
Um,
he's
and
got
it's his eyes. I
he's got
see
his
my brother in
personality
there.
traits, and he's and it's the way he'd look at you, isn't it? It's the way an animal looks at you that you know
Yeah, it just
it's
it's like
exactly the same way that your brother. Yeah,
because he gives me looks like, yeah, don't be saying that stuff, because ain't right.
sure.
It just his whole face. You don't have a dog face at all.
Oh,
He
well, I
doesn't.
think we don't see our pets as animals anyway. I don't see a dog when I look at my dog, or I don't see a cat when I look at my cat. I just perceive them to be my family, And Kelly's saying that, she has her dog 14 years now, and she's been her absolute rock, and that she's been through so much that she wouldn't have been able to cope with without her dog. That's amazing, Kelly. Um, what was the weirdest thing that happened to me? In what way, Stephanie?
Like, well, I mean, like, haha, like,
With
yeah,
spirit?
yeah.
God, I don't know. There's been so many things like over the years, but I always think, I suppose, the not necessarily funny, but the most amazing thing I think that Spirit ever did for me was save my life that time in Germany. I think everybody's heard that story. I don't want to bore people. Is there anybody that hasn't heard me tell the story about?
I haven't heard it personally,
Have you
but
not heard it? Okay. So very quickly, when I was a teenager, I lived in Germany. I was about 17, and I was out running one day, just having a jog. And where I lived was very Bavarian, and it was just all vineyards all around. Okay. And I lived in a small village. For miles and miles, you could go for like forever without seeing anybody. So here I was jogging along. Now it was the 90s. I had a very cool personal cassette stereo with the lovely old fashioned headphones. Remember the ones with the orange foam on
Yeah,
them?
yeah.
If anybody's as old as I am. And so I was jogging along listening to Simon and Garfunkel, and I heard this voice really loudly shout, "Run!" And I thought, oh, here, I've got someone now walking behind me or something, and they're taking the piss, because I was running. And so I turned around, ready to give somebody a piece of my mind, and there was nobody there. So I thought, what the hell's going on here? And I was kind of turning around, like in the middle of the road, thinking, there's somebody hiding in the vineyard somewhere, taking the piss, because I heard the word run again. And just the next minute, this car came out of nowhere. And the car went past. And when a car has music like really loud, you can actually feel the vibrations almost as it passes. And this car passed, and I was looking at the car, and there was 4 or 5 guys inside that were looking at me as it went past. And then I heard the voice again saying, "Run, run now." There was an expletive in there. Run like now, okay? And I was like, okay. I just ran, and I felt really stupid. I was in the middle of nowhere. There was no one around. And I was running down between these vineyards, and I got in between two. They're planted in rows of two. And I got in between the two, and I waited. And a couple of minutes later, the car came back and stopped right at the top. I could see, it was like I was looking uphill, at where the road was. And I could see 5 guys get out of this little car, and they spent about 20, 30 minutes looking around, and they were going in and out between all the vines, and they were looking for me. I couldn't understand all the German they were speaking, but I could understand some words. And after about a half an hour or so, one just shouted at the others, she must be gone. And they all got into the car and left. and I waited another 15 or 20 minutes before I came out, and then I ran home, but I ran through the vineyards rather than back on the road. So I always figure, that my life would have been very, very different, or maybe would have ended that day if I hadn't heard that voice from spirit. Because years later, I read an article in a magazine, and it was about a girl in the United States, and she'd ran away from home and she'd hitchhiked, and she was picked up by this guy who was very, very nice. And after a couple of hours driving, they stopped for something to eat. He bought her something to eat, and she went to the bathroom. And when she was in the bathroom, she went to wash her hands, and she heard this voice tell her to climb out the window and run. And she looked behind her, said there was nobody there. And she looked over to the window. And in order to get out the window, it was open, but she'd have to climb up onto the sink and climb out the window. And she was like, why would I want to climb out the window? And the voice said to her again, do it now. And she said, I completely ignored it, she said, and walked out of the bathroom. And when she got back into the truck with that guy, he kidnapped her, and he kept her for 8 years in his house, locked up in his house for 8 years before she managed to escape. And I was thinking, like, what would have happened to me had I not listened to the voice? So I think, as regards like wow, or like a life-changing experience, that was definitely has to be up there, because I can even hear the voice in my head, and I really believe that I knew who that was. I believe it was a relative of mine that was calling to me. He'd only died a couple of years before this happened, and it just sounded so like him, um, when I think of it. So that's probably the strangest thing that's ever happened to me, but life-saving at the same time. So I think I've seen that video where the curtains are moving. Yes, Kelly. So that's the orb video. Absolutely.
There's been times, every time I have not listened to that Spidey voice in the back of the head,
Sure.
I should have listened to him. So
Yeah.
I just, every time
But this
and I
wasn't a
know that
voice in the back of my head. This wasn't this was like a voice, like I can't remember what the word for it is like, but you know what? There's a voice, but there's no body, there's no person there.
Yeah.
A
Yeah, that's the
disembodied. There
Spidey
you go.
voice. So
Yeah.
the I call him the Spidey voice, or
You're talking about your intuition.
yeah.
Yeah. But this was not intuition. This was literally a voice. It was shouting at me to run. And Carrie saying, I'd love if my cat came back to me when she passes. She's 12 and has kidney disease. Oh, God bless her. I hand reared her since she was 3 weeks old, and I don't know how long I've left with her. Could be months, could be years. That's awful. And it's funny, Carrie, because the guy that did my last tattoo was a Romanian guy. He's actually since moved back to Romania. But he was talking to me when I was getting my tattoo done, and he had a cat. I hope still has a cat that had a kidney disease, and he was looking into the possibility of getting a kidney transplant for the cat. But the only place that does it apparently is somewhere in Australia. But there is medication. There's medication that the cat is on, but he could only get this medication from Romania. So I don't know if you know anybody Romanian or any Romanian vets, but the Irish vet told him that there was nothing that could be done for this cat. So every single month, his mother sent this medication over from Romania for the cat. Okay, and the cat was doing absolutely fine on this medication. So it might be worth looking into now. I know this guy, he was based in Kilkenny, but he's since moved back to Romania. But I can't remember his Instagram name. Message me and I'll send you a link to his Instagram page. I can't remember the name off the top of my head. And you might be able to message him and ask him about the cat with the kidney disease. How was Loftus Hall? Hey, Eileen. That night I was down in Loftus Hall. Like, you know me, I'm sick every second week. It's just been so busy at work. But I was sick as a dog going down to Loftus Hall that night, so I couldn't feel a thing. But I went anyway because I wanted to experience it, because I knew it would be my last chance to experience it. So I've had better nights, but yeah, look, I just wanted to go there for the atmosphere more than anything else. Okay. Some comments now are related back to things I can't remember that we were talking about a while ago. Sorry, I'm really scrolling down now. Okay, so Maggie saying something similar happened to me, but it was a house fire, saved my life, and I believe it was my grandfather who had passed 4 years previously. See, I agree. They're always looking out for us, and there's very few times that they can actually help us with something. So when they can, they tend to. Okay. Oh, Carrie's saying she's on meds and a special diet. I've often heard a male voice. This is Michelle. I've often heard a male voice call my name just before I fall into a deep sleep. I have not recognized the voice. I wonder if it would be a spirit guide, because when I was a teenager and I was trying to push away spirit, I didn't want to connect with them, and I have a spirit guide that used to come into my room every single night, and he used to get really frustrated. He used to pull the duvet off the bed. Well, we probably didn't have what we used to call a continental quilt back then, but I probably had um, blankets and stuff. And the he used to pull them off the bed and he used to shake the bed. I had the single bed. I was in the smallest room. I was the baby of the house, and like this went on for years. So it may not necessarily be a loved one. It might be your spirit guides trying to get your attention. Maybe you're ignoring some signs around you, or maybe you're ignoring them when they're trying to connect with you. I say, that sometimes it's best to make the time for them while you're awake. Okay. So just sit down in a peaceful room for 5-10 minutes if you're not scared, okay, and don't be scared of them because they're nobody that will do you any harm, and give them the time to communicate with you. If you can hear them before you go to sleep, there's no reason why you couldn't hear them in the middle of the day. Okay, so tell them, give them a time to be there.
May I
Of
ask you something?
course.
As regards that, calling our names and all that, I usually hear someone. It's mostly a man,
Yep.
and I hear it most of the time when I'm walking downtown or wherever here around the city. Like
Uh-huh.
someone's calling my name, either my full name or just my nickname.
Mhm.
Sometimes in a quiet voice, sometimes an angry voice, like paying attention to me. And I turn around, there's nobody there. So how how do we do to to take the time and connect with them, because I usually ignore them.
Okay. So, and this only happens kind of when you're out and about, kind of in where there's people around and stuff like that.
Yes,
Okay. It sounds to me like, obviously, do you work as a medium yourself, Emily, or have you been doing spiritual work?
not at all.
Okay. Well, obviously, there's the ability there. I mean, I do believe that everyone has the ability, but some people it does come to a lot easier. So it sounds to me like, now I don't know because obviously I haven't read you or connected with your spirit guides or anything, but it sounds to me a bit like maybe that you know the people around you, that their spirit that is with them might perceive the fact that you're able to hear them or able to connect with them. So like you might find that you're maybe in a shop and that a spirit is speaking to you, and then when you leave then it's a different spirit. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So it seems to me, and it happens a lot, when I'm in hotels and stuff, that I'll perceive a lot of spirit around, because all the people that are in this building or all the people that are on the street or whatever, they all have spirit with them. And when they realize that, oh my gosh, look, that girl can hear us or that girl can see us or whatever, then they're all saying, see that woman over there carrying that bag? That's my mother. Will you tell her that I'm okay? Or, that's my brother over there. Tell him that I'm fine. So you get all these people that are trying to tell you that, that they want to connect with their loved
Yeah.
ones there. Yeah. So I guess
One
that's what it
one
is.
time, one time it happened that my dad is a farmer, so
Sure.
therefore he has a house over there, and all the family was there. And my nephew, he asked me for a cup of tea, so I was fixing him a cup of
Uh-huh.
tea, and I was, doing my thing. I was not paying attention to all the things around, and I asked him, I said, "Do you want some cookies with it, or what do you want to eat?"
Yeah.
And he said, "Cookies would be fine." And all of a sudden, I see my nephew coming in to the kitchen, and I say, "Okay." here are your cookies. I said, no, I just want the tea. I don't want cookies. That
Oh.
you just told me you wanted cookies. I said, I was in the yard playing with the ball. So, no, you were not talking to me. And I was like, what? Okay, let's get out of here. Let's have the cup of tea outside.
So someone in the spirit world wanted some cookies. Yeah, so
Apparently they did.
you seem to be very clairaudient, okay, which is an amazing gift to have. Even I'm calling it a gift, an amazing ability to have, to be able to hear them. So work with it. Give them a time where you're going to be able to sit down and write down what you get from them, okay? Because generally they come through or they want to talk to us or connect with us when something's going on, so is it their birthday, is it their anniversary, is somebody else's birthday, or is there something going on for somebody? See if they've got a message, okay? So write
Okay.
down what you get from them, but try and give them maybe 15-20 minutes once or twice a week. They will love it. They will.
Uh, thank you.
Okay, so I want to go back here on a couple of questions that I saw before we finish up. And guys, I love just the conversation, so please don't be afraid to come on live with me. It's absolutely fine. Okay, so Nicola says, when my sister was a kid, under 10, she was about to cycle down a steep hill when she heard someone call her name. She couldn't see anyone, but she got off the bike and walked. She always thought it was her auntie who died when I was 4 and my sister was 3. Oh, she was only 35 when she passed. Oh, your poor aunt. But she came back and was looking out for your sister. Isn't that amazing? And obviously, because we don't always think of it, but obviously where she was going to cycle down was very dangerous. I love that story. Okay, I did a meditation one time to find and connect with spirit guide, but it was unsuccessful. Is there a reason why I couldn't connect with my spirit guide? Okay, so spirit guides, think of them like teachers. Okay, so if you remember when you were in school, we didn't necessarily know anything or have conversations with our teachers. They came and they taught us and they gave us guidance. And we didn't even know their names. We called them Miss Dunn or Miss O'Brien or whatever it might be. Think of your spirit guide in the same way. Some of them won't want to be your friends. They'll want to be there to guide you. Okay, so they may not connect and talk to you on any particular level. Like I have one guide, and you will have several, by the way. I have one guide. I know his name is Francois. And I know that he was a healer when he was here before because he comes and helps me when I'm doing healing for somebody. Okay. So, but I was working with him years before I got a name out of him. And he's the only one of my guides that I've got a name for. Okay. So, you don't have to have a conversation with them. You don't necessarily need to know their name to be able to call on them. Okay. So if they're not stepping forward and don't want to talk about themselves, that's because they're here to guide you. So instead of trying to find out stuff about them, ask them if they can help you with different stuff. Maybe even ask your spirit guides if there's someone special to you in spirit. Ask them, okay, well, that's okay if you don't want to talk to me, but can you help me connect to whomever it is in spirit? Okay. So, I hope that works for you. Carrie says, does everyone have a spirit guide? We all have several, Carrie. And yes, there's plenty to go around. Sometimes they come as thoughts, your spirit guides. Yeah, they can come kind of like intuition, I suppose, would be my word for that. Any message for you, Eileen? So I'm going to have to go offline on Podbean now, but I really enjoyed. I don't know if I'm going to have any success on messages tonight because, as I was saying, I've been sick all day. I have a terrible ear infection again, so I'm going to have to go and see a specialist soon, I think. But I don't know
I'll
what I have.
remember you in my prayers. I'm going to send some energy,
Thank
loving
you.
energy, healing.
Thank you. Because I've tried everything with these and I'm taking this horrible medicine that my herbalist gave me. So the medicine might kill me before the ear infection does. But I've actually, in order to actually stay up late enough to do the podcast, I had to take Norfen. So I may not be able to connect this evening, but
Well,
I'm
I
going to give it
thank
a try.
you from America.
Thank you so much. So before we go, I went to the store, was missing my husband extremely bad. I was in the jewelry department. I saw a watch that had written across it, "Hello, beautiful." It took my breath away. And immediately thought to myself, Bill sent me a message because when he was alive, every morning he would wake up and say that to me. Do you think it
I
was a
told you,
message
Jill.
of existence? Oh, is that Jill, is it?
Yes, that's backwards, Jill.
100%. 100%. It is a sign. Yeah, without doubt. I know you say it just caught your eye, but you wouldn't even have seen it or thought about it without his guidance to that. Oh, I'm so sorry that you lost your husband. Nicola, this is the quickest hour of my week. Whenever I get talking about spirit or anything spiritual, the time just flies. Thank you for joining us, Helen. I'm sorry I didn't do readings this week, but as I say, I'm not convinced that I will be able to do any because of the fact that I took medication. And when you're working with spirit, it's an unwritten rule. You can't take anything because by taking a Nurofen, I took it to kill the pain in my ears. Oh, Jill's friend bought the watch for her. That's amazing. By taking Nurofen to kill the pain in my ears, I've deadened my senses, and that's what painkillers do. They deaden your senses so that you don't feel the pain. But therefore, because the senses are deadened, it can be much, much harder to connect with spirit because you're not necessarily feeling it in the way you should. Well, thanks, Helen. I'm sure it'll pass in a few days. I'm on antibiotics, double antibiotics again. So I'm hoping it'll pass over in a few
And
days.
everyone, as you go through this next week, something
Yep.
tells me take just at times when you're just getting like the, when you're feeling like, I don't know, out of sorts, remember, take a deep breath in, hold it for a minute, and when you release it, say, what are you being upset about? Is it yours to own? Because if it isn't yours to own, don't carry it around. It's not yours.
Well, that's true. Just to let everything go and let it out with breath. I'm just getting a lot of feedback from you, Stephanie. I'm not sure what the ticking is or whatever. Just so I don't know. No, it didn't mean for you to go mute, just so you know that it was just hard for me to hear because I can't hear properly as it is anyway. So I wasn't sure what you were saying there for a minute. It took me a minute to get my head around it. So I think what Stephanie was trying to say was just to breathe out everything. Okay, so take a deep breath in, and as you're exhaling, and Stephanie, please come back on if I'm right. As you're exhaling, I think she's asking you to just let all the negative energy out with your breath. Okay, and I didn't catch what she referred to. I think it was a stone. I'm not sure. As I said, my hearing isn't great tonight. So, guys. Technology has not been my friend. Thank you so much, Stephanie. I couldn't have done tonight without you because I was just feeling so poorly. So it was lovely to have you on. And guys, thank you so much for joining me for another week. Please, please, please do come on next week because I have to say you will listen to Paul Gill forever. He is amazing. And if you have any dreams that you want to talk about or find out about what they mean, please send them to me and we'll schedule that you can come on live. Okay? You're here filling my purpose and helping me to fill mine, Stephanie. So I'm very, very grateful. Thank you so much. And I will see you all next week, folks. Thanks again for joining me. It's been amazing. Good night.
Discussing everything.